Hey everybody, this is Allie. Welcome back to my channel, Color Mama 360. It's time for another video. So good morning, good night, good middle of the night, depending on when you're watching. Welcome to the 2026 book battle round one. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, make sure to head over to my book battle 2026 announcement video. I go over what the book battle is, how it's going to work this year, how the voting is going to work, the schedule, anything and everything you need to know. I also mentioned in there that I will have a surprise at the end of the book battle series, which is actually going to be a giveaway where I give away a Amazon gift card that I was able to get with my Fetch points. So if you don't know what Fetch is, I always have it linked in the description of my videos. It's an app that I use to scan receipts, and I'm able to convert the points I get from that into gift cards. Not sponsored or anything, just trying to be transparent about how I get stuff for the channel and how I get things for giveaways. So there will be more information about how to get entered into that giveaway as we go through the book battle series. So no questions in the comments about that right now because there is more information to come later on, but I'm just giving you a heads up that for those that participate in the book battle, you will have a chance to win an Amazon gift card at the end. So full transparency, guys, I already recorded this video. It was really super long, and I got done and realized that my mic was not on, and since I have it plugged in, that means that there was no sound at all. So I'm planning on making this way shorter than the first time because there's just no way I am spending the same amount of time that I did the first time. And I also don't think it was needed. The video was way too long the first time, so maybe this is just a good sign to shorten it a little bit. But basically what we're going to be doing today is going through the pairings for round one. So I posted a bracket up on my channel where you can see all the round one books. If I remember, which I didn't last time, but if I remember this time, I'll try to put that same bracket up on the screen now so you kind of get an idea of where we're starting. But we have 8 pairings to go through today. What I mainly want to cover is just giving you a general idea of the book in case maybe you don't own it, but still want to vote for it. So something that you should just consider when voting in general is which of these books is the best overall. Maybe in the future book battles, depending on how this one goes, we'll have more of a theme, like which one's the best for beginners or which one's the best for more advanced, that sort of a thing. But for this year, we're just doing which one is the best overall. So as you're looking at the pairings today, you're going to want to think of different things to consider, like uh, paper quality, medium versatility, illustrations, theme, number of pages, things like that. Now, we're not going to go through all of these in depth, but I'm just going to give you a general idea in case you don't own the book or aren't familiar with the book, but still want to be able to vote on each pairing, if that makes sense. I'm also going to ask that you give your friends tips or other things about the book in the comments. So if I'm not familiar with how a certain medium works, please jump in down at the comments and let me know, let me and everybody else know your experience with different mediums, because there's a lot of these books that I haven't colored in or haven't tried certain mediums in, and you guys are going to be the experts on that. So let your friends know down in the comments. You can even advocate for certain books if you want to persuade your friends that maybe don't know or don't have a book to vote a certain way. That's okay. Go for it. I'm fine with that. So let's go ahead and get started with our first pairing, which is Flights of Fancy by Camila D'Errico versus The Magical Colors of Fairies by Angela Gonzalez. Now, as far as book size goes, here's a comparison. Flights of Fancy is kind of your typical square book format. This one is also sort of a square, a little bit smaller. I don't have a ruler, so I'm not going to be measuring books, but I'll just kind of give it to you as far as like it's shorter and it's skinnier. The unique thing about The Magical Colors of Fairies is it opens up like this instead of, your typical way like that. So a little bit unique in that. If we look at Flights of Fancy real fast, as far as illustrations, they are double-sided. So this is a double-sided book. Everything is kind of themed to like wings and flying, but you have a good variety of people and animals, and some with larger backgrounds, some with smaller backgrounds. Now, this is the book that has a lot of the bees, so if you're a fan of bees, It's also the book that has some of these like creepier images. So maybe you've heard people talk about them before. It has double page spreads. I've used water mediums in this book personally. They've worked great. I haven't had any issues. This is the owl is all apertures, and so are the lightning bolts. And this is the Ohuhu glitter marker, which sometimes bleeds through on certain paper, sometimes doesn't. And then distress ink in the background. Now the paper's quite thick, so it makes sense that it does well. I personally wouldn't use alcohol markers in this book because it's double-sided, but if you want to sacrifice the page on the other side, you could also use alcohol markers. Looking at the Magical Colors of Fairies by Angela Gonzalez. This book is single-sided. It is Amazon quality paper, I believe. It's basically just your regular printer paper. I struggled with soft pastels on this type of paper, and I didn't really use a lot of pencil. So if you have certain pencils that work well on Amazon paper, that might be something to let your friends know down in the comments. But alcohol markers are great for this book because it's single sided. It is themed, so there's a lot of fairies. I think there's a fairy on every single page, but you do have some other elements as well that can make it a great book to go through the seasons. You have mushrooms, you have strawberries, you have, and then in the back you have some kind of different things. So you have note paper, you have, there were some that I think had like prompts. Yeah. Well, this one's like a maze. This one has meaning of colors, magical story. So a little bit different stuff in the back. As far as color time goes, take into account that this one's single-sided, this one's double-sided, but they're around the same thickness. So those are our first pairing. All right, pairing number 2 is A Circle of Life by Malcolm and Hatsupenagatu and the Goblin Core coloring book. I believe these are Shutterstock images, so I don't know who the illustrators are. As you can see, this is kind of a little bit bigger, probably closer to Flights of Fancy, maybe slightly skinnier. Here's the comparison here. Looking at Circle of Life first, while this is kind of themed, it really is a good variety. Most of the pages are circular, but as you can see, there are some that are not. And this one's a great year-round book again. It has some really, really detailed pages, like this double page spread. But it does have some somewhat simpler pages as well. Now the way that she draws her line art, the shading is kind of put in for you, where she has these lines that make it a little bit easier to color. So that's nice. I've used Tombows, and I hear a lot of people talk about how they really like basing with Tombows in this book. And then I don't think I've used Polychromos yet, but I have used Prismacolors and they work well. The paper has a little bit of tooth, but it's mostly a smoother paper. This Goblin Core coloring book is single-sided. It has a really big variety of illustrations because they're Shutterstock images. So it's not just one illustrator in here. So it's really, just really different as far as the illustrations that you get. I've not colored in this book, but in the first time that I filmed this video, we did do a little bit of a test here with some Albert Durs to see how it handled water. And it did pretty well. Not pretty well. It did really well. Really no shadowing or anything there. It is also single-sided, so I would probably be looking more for like warping or peeling. I wouldn't care so much if it had bled through to the other side. And you can also use alcohol markers in here because it's single-sided. So that's our second pairing, Circle of Life and Goblin Core. Next pairing is Romantic Gothic, the London Sirasaki coloring book in Alien Worlds by Kirby Rosannes. Here is the size comparison. Here is the page comparison, and Kirby does number his pages, so I can actually give you the exact number of pages in the Kirby book, but I'm not sure about Romantic Gothic. Romantic Gothic is also single-sided. There are 87 pages in Alien Worlds, double-sided. This one, I'm not sure how many pages, but it is single-sided. Let's take a look first at Romantic Gothic. Again, this one isn't actually that themed. It just has girls in every page. So, yeah, it has a person in every page, but it kind of has seasonal type pages. So that's nice. It also has chapters. So chapter 2, fashionable girls and cute animals. Really cute images in this book. But yeah, like I said, there's some that are a little bit seasonal. They have like witches hats on here. I think there was one that was a little bit Christmassy somewhere too. Pretty detailed and small. So it is single-sided. I don't know how well alcohol markers would work, like if they would bleed over the line art because it's such small areas. That would be my guess. I don't think I would start with alcohol markers in this book personally, but I haven't started in this book. So maybe some who have other opinions. I also don't know how well water mediums work, but I just did a little teeny tiny test right here. It seemed to handle it okay, but again, I don't really know you can base it off of such a teeny tiny spot. The paper is very smooth in my opinion. Doesn't have a lot of tooth. I would be interested to see how water-based markers work in this. Next, we have Alien Worlds by Kirby Rosannes. This is just kind of spec-wise your typical Kirby Rosannes book, so typical size, typical paper, and it is very on theme. So every page is going to be space, alien, something like that. And I know theme is a big topic with this book, so might be something to consider. Again, Kirby puts in his shading, so that's really helpful when tackling these pages. I've only colored this page. I just used Prismacolor pencils. I think that water mediums work okay in this book as long as you don't use too much water. Or on this paper, I guess. Not in this book. I wouldn't know in this book. I know that I think some people have used not distress inks. Oh my gosh, Inktense, and they've worked okay. So yeah, just you could go off of your experience in other Kirby books because I believe the paper is the same. So Alien Worlds versus Romantic Gothic. Our next pairing is Harry Potter Sweets and Treats coloring book. Now I always have to go back here and look for the illustrator and show it to you because I don't know how to say her name. And then Creepy Kawaii Halloween is by Ella Yarzabek. Now, I'm not sure how many pages are in this one. It is double-sided. I don't think they're numbered. Yeah, they're not numbered. This one says right on the top it's 50 pages, and they're single-sided. So if we take a look at Creepy Kawaii first, this one is it's really a Halloween themed book. There's a couple pages in here that you could do just in the autumn season, like this one. I mean, you could do them whenever, but I'm just saying in general, it's a pretty Halloween themed book. You have monsters and skeletons and Frankenstein and pumpkins and um, spiders. So it's pretty on theme, but it has some fun pages. Like this one, you could color anytime in the autumn season too. This one, really anytime. So it's an autumnal book with a lot of emphasis on the Halloween type of season. Single-sided, alcohol markers work great. There is, I will admit, a page missing from this book, my copy of this book, because I tried to use Albert Durer's and it did not turn out well. I wouldn't personally recommend water mediums on this paper, but that's just me. Others might have different opinions. So I would just go based off of your own opinion. Now, I don't know that you could necessarily say if you don't have this book, but you have one of the Color Me series books. It is the same publisher, but I don't know how similar the paper is. So I would rely more on your friends maybe if you don't have this book. Harry Potter Sweets and Treats. This book is, like I said, double-sided. It is themed to exactly what it's called, Harry Potter, and then kind of these sweets, but it's a good variety. You have some scenes, you have some kind of wallpaper-ish pages. You have things like this. You have some Halloween pages. There's also a Christmas double page spread. There's a lot of double page spreads in this book. I did, the first time I filmed this video, try out some water mediums because I haven't colored in this book. You need to be really careful, I think. It didn't go through to the other side, but I don't know. I could see there being issues with too many layers, I think is kind of what I was thinking. And you'll want to make sure it dries all the way as well. But you know what? It might be okay. So I don't know if anybody else has colored in this book. Maybe they would have a better idea of what works well. I personally wouldn't use alcohol markers because it's double-sided. Creepy Kawaii Halloween, Harry Potter Sweets and Treats. Our next pairing is Flowerscape in Paradise versus Kingdom of Curious Creatures by Kanoko Igusa. Kanoko Igusa is kind of the size of most of her books, I believe. And then you can see the size comparison here. Starting with Kingdom of Curious Creatures. This is a double-sided book, pretty on theme. You do have a lot of creatures, which makes sense based on the name, but you also have pages like this that don't have any animals with fur. So if you're not a fan of coloring fur, you might not want to get this whole book because there is a lot of fur in here, but if you want to color something in this book that doesn't have fur, there are pages like this. Or like this. Frogs don't really have fur. They have skin, but or like this. So you have a good variety in here. I believe there's also some, double page spreads. Now, I haven't colored in this one specifically, but the paper feels the same as her other books. It has a little bit of tooth. I haven't had any issues with water mediums. I have not tried water-based markers, but I've used watercolor pencils and they've worked nicely. And I believe the books that I have are the English edition. Next is Flowerscape in Paradise. This one is a little bit unique because you have, so I would call it a double-sided book. You have the flower on one side and then the image on the other side. And so if you scan this QR code down here, it gives you a color reference for the flower, and then this flower can be found in the image. So personally, I wouldn't use alcohol markers in this book, but I know some would just because the image is so minimal on one side. So that really just comes down to personal preference. But this one is unique because it has those color reference codes. Now, something to keep in mind about this book is I have shadowing from my Prismacolors. And I don't think this is from having a backer page because this happened on both the completed pages that I have in this book. Find the other one. So you'll see shadowing. I don't think it's from my backer page. It could be, but the colors also match up with where those colors are. So something to consider. I've only used pencil in this book. I haven't used water mediums. The paper is pretty smooth. So if you have any of her other books, I don't know how similar the paper is, or if you've colored in this one, you might have your own opinions, or you can give additional opinions about the best mediums to use in this book down in the comments for your friends. But that's Kingdom of Curious Creatures versus Flowerscape. Next, we have Owl Adorable versus A Million Baby Animals by Lulu Mayo. Sorry, Owl Adorable by Teresa Goodrich versus A Million Baby Animals by Lulu Mayo. Here is your size comparison. Now, if you own any other of the Million series by Lulu Mayo, it's the same size of book. And if you own any other Creative Haven Teresa Goodrich books, it's the same size. So you don't have to own these exact books to kind of get an idea of the size. Starting with A Million Baby Animals. This is like your typical Lulu book. So you have some double page spreads, lots of cute animals doing different things. Really, you could color in this book anytime. Doesn't feel like a seasonal book to me. You have a really good variety of images, and I think you have just the right number of like double page spreads, single pages. Now, as you can see, it is double-sided. I just want to point out here, see, this shadowing is from having a backer page. I can tell because I didn't use any yellow on the page in front of it. So it was just I had a page that I had here, and there must have been something on the page that transferred over. And then the pink is probably from the soft pastel because I am usually not very careful with that. So I used Albert Durrs on this page. They worked wonderfully. I have had really good luck with watercolor pencils in Lulu Mayo's books. I like Prismacolors. I don't know that I've tried polychromos, but I've also used actually on that page and in some of her other books, I've used the Albert Durrs Dry, and they work really nicely. I haven't used water-based markers, but if you don't have this specific Lulu Mayo book, I believe it's the same paper. So you could go off of your medium experiences in other Lulu Mayo books. In Owl Adorable by Teresa Goodrich, we have single-sided images. So something to consider with number of pages as well when comparing. These ones are perforated. And single-sided images are nice because you can use alcohol markers in this book. I personally wouldn't recommend water mediums on Teresa Goodrich paper. Maybe you could get away with a water-based marker. It's been a while since I think I've tried that in one of her other books, but I don't remember liking it too well. However, others might. I have used polychromos in this book specifically, and I liked the way that they worked, actually more than Prismacolors. But yeah, I personally don't like water mediums on this paper. It's not, I don't think it's quite Amazon paper, but it's not like super great paper either. It's not super thick or versatile. So anyways, every page, has owls doing different things. I think you have a good variety in here. Again, it kind of goes through the seasons. You have a page for every season. It's a lot like her gnome books if you own any of those, except for instead of gnomes, it's owls. So Owl Adorable by Teresa Goodrich versus A Million Baby Animals by Lulu Mayo. Our next pairing is Mythic World by Kirby Rosannes versus Spirit Animals by Hannah Carlzon. Again, I know that this book is a little bit harder to come by. You don't need to own the books in order to be able to vote on them. I'm hoping that this video will give you a good enough idea if you don't own the books to know which one you still want to vote for. So Mythic World is your standard Kirby size book. Sorry, let me give you the size comparison here. So the Hannah Carlzon book is a little bit taller and a little bit skinnier. This one's more square. Don't take into account the spiral binding on mine. I had that done myself. I did have it done myself. I didn't do it myself, but I had it done myself. I paid to have it done. Oh my goodness. So yeah, you don't need to take that into consideration necessarily for this video. Now, this one, again, is very on theme, but the theme is so broad that you have a really good variety of pages in here. You have some that are, like, scarier than others, some that are more detailed than others. You have double-page spreads, single pages. Now, it is double-sided, so I personally wouldn't be using alcohol markers unless you want to sacrifice the other side. Water mediums work okay. I have started this page as a whip and I used water mediums. I think I just went a little too heavy on the water and that's why I got some bleed through on this side. Because I have heard people use water mediums on this paper all the time and don't necessarily always have that issue. So I think I just went a little heavy on the water and I can kind of hear it in the crinkle too. So interesting how much of a difference there is. um, so I wouldn't necessarily say like I wouldn't use water mediums in this book. You just want to be careful about how much water you're adding if you are. I haven't used water-based markers. I have heard that polychromos work really nicely on curvy paper. I haven't gotten the chance yet to try that out, but that is what I have heard. So something to take into consideration or ask your friends about if you don't own Kirby books. But you could base your experience off of other Kirby books, even if you don't have that one specifically. When it comes to mediums, you could take into consideration how mediums work in your other Kirby books. Spirit Animals by Hannah Carlzon. Now, this is one of the older books. So again, if you don't have this one for medium wise, you could take into account how mediums work in her other books if you have the older ones. I wouldn't compare this one with the Tales From series because I believe the paper is a little bit different. I have started a whip in this book. Get to see this lovely picture of Kristoff and Sven. I did not like the tombos, which I used in this corner. That's why it looks different. I didn't like the way that those worked on this paper, but the rest of this background is Albert Durer's. They worked beautifully, and I've used Albert Durer's in her other books that are older as well. Love them. They work great. I've also used Prismacolors in her other books. Um, they work really well as in it as well. They also work really well. There we go. I have not yet tried Polychromos in her books because Polychromos are a little bit of a newer pencil to me, but you could ask your friends or go off of your own experience. Personally, I wouldn't use alcohol markers in this book because it's double-sided. Now, this book, again, stays on theme, but it has a good variety. So most of the pages are a portrait and then an animal. So you do have a lot of portraits and you do have a lot of animals, but I also think that you get stuff like this to make it like more unique. Like look how unique this page is, right? Compared to the last page. Not saying the last page isn't unique, but I'm just saying look how different they are. You know what I mean? So it's not just like a circular portrait or just the animal. I think you have a really good variety in this book. I love the double page spread that I currently have started. That's my favorite in the book. I love this one as well. So really, really nice variety in this book as well. I'll just give you a quick look at some of the other pages. Like I said, lots of portraits and lots of animals. So this is another double page spread I really like in this book. This book has gorgeous double page spreads. Like she just really nailed it with the double page spreads in this book. So that is Mythic Worlds versus Spirit Animals. And our final pairing, guys, this video is so much shorter the second time around. I like the way that I did this one a lot better. Is A Million Little Monsters by Lulu Mayo versus, I just call it the Spring Compilation Book by Rita Berman. Now this is like Hidden Seasons. So if you have the English edition, I don't know that you would necessarily say it has the same paper. It's not the same size or anything like that, but I believe it has the same illustrations, or at least some of the same illustrations as Hidden Seasons. Here is the size comparison. So Rita's books are typically a little bit shorter, but fatter. And then Lulu Mayo's, same as A Million Baby Animals, just her typical standard size for the Million series. Starting with the Spring Compilation Book by Rita Berman. This book is double-sided and it is chunky, like it is thick. It has plenty of coloring time. It's also, like I said, I may have said it's single-sided. I meant it's double-sided. So you have lots and lots of images to color in here. I have not used water mediums in this book specifically, but I have used water mediums in one of her other non-English edition books, and they worked fine. I've also used ink tints in one of her other books and they worked fine. Mostly in here I've used just Prismacolors, which work great. The paper, pretty smooth. What was I going to say about this book? This does have, I feel like, a little bit of her like older style. I don't know that she does as much of this anymore, but it's a little, I kind of see this as kind of like Zentangly, where you have patterns inside of things like this. So that might be something that you want to take into consideration, depending on your preferences and styles. But yeah, you can see it on these trees as well. But it goes through all of the seasons. You have plenty of pages to color for each season. Really, really great variety. Probably one of the best varieties that we've seen in the picks for the book battle, because it's a seasonal book. So of course it's going to have variety. It's going to have variety because it has pages for each season. That is the Rita Berman Spring Compilation book. And then we have A Million Little Monsters by Lulu Mayo. I would just echo the same things I said about baby animals as far as mediums and paper and all of that. I haven't colored in this one specifically, but I think the paper is generally the same. The theme, again, there's monsters in probably every page, but you have some, what I like about this book is you have some that are not just going to be colored one time a year. Like, this doesn't feel, it's like robots and donuts. Like, you can color that whenever, color this whenever, but then you have a pumpkin, so maybe you want to color that more around Halloween. So it does have a good variety, even though it's kind of monster themed. She did a good job still giving it a variety of different pages. Okay. All right. Well, that is our final pairing. So next steps, I will be putting the link to the Google form to vote in both the description of this video as well as a separate post on my YouTube channel. Yes, it's a Google form because we have 8 pairings. That would be a lot of polls. So I needed to do a Google form to kind of consolidate things for these first few rounds. This will be our longest video because we have the most books. So future videos will be probably a little bit shorter, as well as we get into more of the finals, we may switch over to just doing a poll on YouTube, especially for the finale, because that will just be 2 books. So I know it's an extra step to have to go over, click on a Google form. It takes you someplace else, but please, please, please go vote. And if you vote and interact with the videos, that's going to give you a better chance of winning the Amazon gift card, which, like I said, I will be giving more information about in the coming videos. But the best way to get entered for that, or not entered, but the best way to increase your chances of winning that are to go over and vote, as well as comment on the video. So if you made it through this video beginning to end, leave me a book emoji down in the comments. Don't forget to leave your opinions or thoughts on different mediums or different books in the comments as well. You can try to persuade your friends to vote one way if you want. That's totally fine, as long as we do it kindly, of course. Let's be respectful about it, as always. But make sure to go over and vote. You have until Monday, June 8th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to get your votes in for the first round. And then round 2 will come out next week. So get your votes in now. I'm excited to see which books are moving on to round 2. Let me try to remember to put our bracket in one more time up on the screen. So this is where our bracket currently stands, and then you can see that whichever books move forward, then those will get paired up against each other. Those are the empty spaces. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for your participation in the 2026 book battle. I hope this gave you an idea of what books you might be voting for. Again, please help your friends out down in the comments if they have any questions about different mediums, or if you want to persuade them a certain way, you can. And I will see you guys next time. Happy coloring, everybody. Goodbye.